I'd like to thank everybody for coming to the kickoff meeting to the House Committee on Science and Technology this year. I know we've got some members who've been on the committee before. We have some new members as well. Again, today is going to be an organizational meeting, so we want to love to be able to act on the rules. Those are in your notebooks. If you've had a chance to take a look at those, take a look at them. They're essentially the same as last year's. Want to give a chance to folks who want to introduce themselves, go around the room to do that. We have a couple new members. I'm not going to put them on the spot, but do want to give them a chance to address the committee if they'd like to. I'd love to be able today to talk about some things we're taking on this session, but I'm not quite able to do that because we're still trying to arrange some entities to come in and make some presentations on, I think, some very important and timely things. So I won't go too far into that today. But are we online too? So we're beaming. Our meetings moving forward are going to be hybrid meetings. So if you're not able to make it in person, we'll be able to integrate people that are online as well as here. Our standard meeting times this year is going to be from 3:30 to 5 or 5:30. We've got the room on Mondays in room 606 across the street. That'll kind of be our standard time to try to organize our meetings. We could potentially change that if we needed to, but I think that time will be adequate. Historically, one good 2-hour meeting a week is plenty for our committee. I will say our goal is in these hybrid meetings is to be able to integrate folks that aren't able to be here in person. I think in the environment we're in now, we don't want folks to sort of be at war with, do I need to be with a family member at home? Do I need to be distancing myself or be in the meetings? That's something we're sensitive to. I thought for a kickoff meeting, there's no provisions around in-person meetings or absentee meetings, so I thought we would just sort of meet our first one in person. But moving forward, both for people participating in the discussion and being formally able to vote if necessary in the meeting, if it pleases the committee, I'd love to be able to do hybrid meetings moving forward. I just wanted to be able to raise that to members officially in this setting. Having said that, our goal, again, for those who are new to the committee, is as we have an interdisciplinary mandate as a committee. I mean, our committee touches lots of areas, and what we have typically done is we've typically addressed issues that are not even formulated in legislation, but they're issues that have drawn interest from legislators. They're issues that maybe other states have taken up policy on. And before we drop bills and start trying to act legislatively, in the year since I've been chairman, we've taken up things such as autonomous vehicles. We had a series of hearings on that to dig into that issue. It was 4 years after our first hearing on autonomous vehicles that we actually passed our autonomous vehicle statute in 2017, which was really a national model. That ended up in the House because of where it landed in House Education Committee House Transportation was the appropriate place for it because the nature of the bill. But that effort started over the course of a couple of years here in our committee as well. So there'll be some things we take up this year. We've addressed everything from voting technology back in 2017. In the fall, we had a series of hearings in this room where we brought in a variety of different voting systems. They got to talk about the pros and the cons of their system. Hart InterCivic, Dominion, ES&S, and others filled this room for a number of hours as we talked about those things in the wake of the 2016 election, where there was some questions about the outcome and the security of the elections. That's been raised again this year. So those kinds of things, because there's issues of cybersecurity, there's issues of technology, all kinds of things. In response to many of the complaints we got after the 2016 election, we took that up as a committee, and that was actually informed the work in 2018, 19, and 20 in the election bills we ended up enacting. So those are things we've taken on as a committee in the last several years. Having said that, our Vice Chairman Todd Jones is with us. I'm going to recognize Vice Chairman Jones. What we'll do, we'll go around the room. I'm going to put Secretary Jesse Petrie on the hook next. Introduce yourself, just a couple, 30, 45 seconds of your background. I want to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves, and then we'll have a chance to act on the committee rules.
I'm Jesse Petrie. I'm from Savannah, and my background was not in this domain, but I'm glad to be here. I'm a home care provider of about 35
Thank you. Vice Chair Jones.
Todd Jones, represent the 25th, the #1 district in the state. That's south Forsyth County and a little bit of North Fulton. I've been in tech since 1989, so before it was cool to do, and been in social impact tech since about 2004. So that was way before that was the buzzword to do. So great to be here.
Are you telling us that House District 25 generates more hot air than any other district? And then I think that's beyond dispute. Vice Chairman Jones. Please. Representative Gilligan.
Sherry Gilligan, and he only thinks he has the best district in the state, but we all know that it's where I live. Before I moved to Georgia, I spent 20 years in the intelligence field, so I had a lot of work with lots of kinds of scientific systems, computer systems, satellite systems, you name it. Really enjoyed it, and looking forward to working on the committee.
Yes. And we've got a new member of our committee.
Hi everybody, I'm Shay Roberts. I represent House District 52, which is Sandy Springs, North Atlanta area. And I'm a land use attorney by trade. I'm not doing as much practicing these days since I've been campaigning and now this, but I manage our boutique law firm in Buckhead. I practice with my husband and one other partner. We do anything to do with the dirt except residential closings. I'm a licensed real estate agent as well, and a mom, and happy to be here working with you all.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative McLeod.
Well, I'm Representative McLeod. I represent the most dynamic district in the state of Georgia, District 105 in Gwinnett County.
Thank you.
And I'm a chemical engineer by profession. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother. I was born in the island of Jamaica. Grew up in Ontario, Canada. And I'm grateful to be serving on the science and the technology, because I think this is where some of my strength lies. So definitely looking forward to this year being a good year for us to do some really good things for the state of Georgia.
Thank you. Representative Sains.
Sure. Stephen Sains, I represent House District 180, which is in southeast Georgia, Camden, Ware, and Charlton. I run a federal block grant contract administration firm, and I'm a former deputy sheriff with the Camden Sheriff's Office.
Awesome. Representative Davis.
Hello, I'm Representative Viola Davis, House District 87, located in DeKalb County, primarily in Stone Mountain and Tucker. I am a critical care nurse by profession, and I am also a veteran, served as a combat nurse out in the service. So, if you have any other questions.
Thanks for your service. Representative Nelson.
Representative Sheila Nelson, District 125, out of Augusta, Georgia. I'm a retired federal postal employee with 34 years of service. I survived that, so I should be able to survive anything now.
Yes,
And
indeed.
I'm looking forward to working in this community.
Yes. And she has survived more dog attacks chasing after her than probably. Appreciate your sir. Thank you for that. Representative Petrie, Representative Clark.
Pete Clark, District 147, Houston County, Warner Robins, home of Robins Air Force Base, so my district's keeping the rest of y'all's free. I've been serving in the House since was elected 2014, 2015, been on this committee my whole legislative career. My background, most of my working career was a software engineer with some contractors at Robins Air Force Base and doing some work in the private sector as well. So it was one of the committees I requested to be on from the get-go.
Thank you. Representative Lott.
Representative Jody Lott, I represent District 122, which is just outside of Augusta, and my background is in healthcare.
Representative Perkle.
Clay Perkle. I represent a district in South Georgia. We actually feed the rest of it.
He is a known agricultural technologist.
Slow down.
As the Vice Chair, Todd Jones had mentioned, he's been in tech since '89. I was actually at tech in No, I'm glad to be here. Farming, I mean, you think of tilling of the soil, but we use soil moisture sensors in order to conserve the water that we use and only use the water that we need. And we're using that technology and satellites to drive the tractor, so it's helps on soil erosion. So we use technology a good bit.
I'm told that Vice Chairman Jones has plans to employ autonomous vehicles and sit at his by a swimming pool in Forsyth County and take over farming in half the state. But
I know there's a farm he could take over.
and we're joined by Representative Lopez.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hugo Lopez. I represent DeKalb County District 86 Central DeKalb. I'm happy to be here, looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you. And Representative Earhart.
Representative Jenny Earhart, I'm from House District 36, which is the pretty little corner of Cobb County, I like to say.
Yes.
No offense, represent parts of Powder Springs, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, indeed.
Represent Powder Springs, Appleton, Kennesaw. I have a diverse background. I was a stay-at-home mom for a number of years, and a homeschool mom, a TV and radio host, a cookbook author, and most recently a business owner. And I'm privileged to serve on this committee. I started a little business in my basement about 3.5 years ago with a girlfriend, just the two of us, and we now have 36 employees and just moved into a 12,000 square foot facility in Kennesaw. And it is through the integration of technology that we've been able to scale. The way we did things when it was two of us is very different than the way we do things now with as many as we have. So I'm really privileged and honored to serve on this committee.
Yes. Our districts adjoin. I mean, I've got the McDonald's. She has the Chick-fil-A. I've got the water treatment plant. She's got the horse farms and the golf courses. But she is a great neighbor, and glad to have her on this committee. But anyway, appreciate you guys sharing here. If there's members of the committee that couldn't make it today, they're online. I welcome you. Again, as we alluded to earlier, these will be formally hybrid meetings moving forward, where we can involve people who are not physically present, but today we're not able to do that. So with that, I'd like to direct your attention to the rules, very similar to the ones before. As we get into session, we can get busy as a committee. I think our quorum is 6 members, but we've never had an issue really achieving that. I would propose that as members. And again, as you read through the rules, they're pretty consistent. There's nothing that divert really from a standard rule set from other committees. But if there are questions, now would be the time to ask them. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, how do you guys determine the quorum size?
We're typically we're somewhere in the range of 25 to 30% of the members.
When I did it was 25%. Right now, well, yeah, just a little bit under, so you round it down instead of up. Okay, it didn't seem to be a problem last time. I just was curious.
What's interesting, if those who are watching, my experience is on these issues allows us to transact business if we need to. Mm-hmm. My experience is typically if there's anybody that's watching that has concerns about majority, minority party, the minority party has a much better attendance record here in this committee than members of the majority do. So I don't think the quorum issue has been a concern of ours in the past from a bipartisanship perspective. But that's not unstandard for what we do. Yes, sir.
Chairman Sesser, regarding getting the meetings on Zoom.
Yep.
Did we pass the rules of the House that say we can do that? If not, we did? Okay, good. I just want to make sure, because if not, I wanted to make sure we get it in here.
Well, that was one of the things, too. And if we need to address that and want to address that in committee rules, I'd be prepared to entertain an amendment to say members are able to participate that way, they're able to vote that way. My concern is if we're in a circumstance where there's a Zoom interruption, that I don't want to be in a place where the committee is debilitated because there's some for example, if there's a member in their own home and their Wi-Fi goes down, or they're on mute, they can't unmute their computer, we can't hear them. I don't want to be in a place where we're sort of debilitated by that. I think my sense is the people who are here are obviously present. We want to expand it as much as we can without locking the system down by us managing a process we can't control as a committee. So my goal is to kind of work in a way of kind of collegiality, and even if someone were present, but for example their microphone was muted, if they said like this, that means I'd like to recognize that as a yea vote if it came to that. So we're kind of treading in new territory as far as that goes. I would prefer to kind of fall back on house rules as that goes, and kind of use collegiality. But it is our goal to be, a committee where we're hybrid. We'll do our best to recognize people who raise their hand and want to speak. Again, it may be harder for folks to hear. I know there's a lot of sub-optimization when you're doing that. In my private life, I do manage a lot of Zoom calls in our business, so we'll do the best we can. But my plan had been to kind of fall back on house rules.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody? Raise your hand if anyone else have a question.
I just at the proper moment, I just would recommend that we adopt these committee rules as printed.
Okay. So I do have a motion to pass. Second, any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the rules as presented signify by raising your right hand. All opposed? Okay. Looks unanimous. Thank you for that. So having adopted the rules, I want to sort of tee up a little discussion here. I've got some things that I've been preparing since before session and thinking about we could take up this year as a committee. But I wanted to take this as an opportunity early in session. We're on day 9 now. So we're not at the very beginning, but we're starting to get into session. What issues that relate to science and technology do we want to have an opportunity to hear more about? We do have the ability as a committee to convene and call folks in, and folks tend to come here when they're asked to come. Are there any issues that relate to science and technology specifically that you'd like our committee as members to take up? Anything come to mind? And if you can push your buttons, if you have a mic, I'll recognize you so you can be heard by others. Representative McLeod, are you number 4 there?
Yeah, this is 2.
2? Right there?
Do I hit it now?
Yeah, I think you're on.
I'm on, okay.
If you could pull that a little bit closer, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I think I'd like to look at some more environmental issues.
Okay.
I actually saw a presentation with some software that can actually tell you if you remove X amount of coal or put in X amount of fossil fuel or what kind of results you're going to get in the warming of our planet.
Okay.
So that's something I'd like to see do. And also with the vaccine, I don't know what manufacturers we have in the state of Georgia, and looking at what technology they have, and if they can also help to produce the vaccines here in the state of Georgia. So that's something I think that we should be looking to see what we can do in the state of Georgia for ourselves.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is look into carbon emissions, carbon capture technology, and look at vaccines, what perhaps the existing vaccines or what capability exists within
in
Georgia.
the state of Georgia.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else? Vice Chairman, Secretary Petrie. 4? Okay.
Hear me?
Is your light on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was gonna just recommend, you alluded earlier to something, to the 2016 election and now the 2020 election. You've had folks that were frustrated with the system. We know with the hand recount what the outcome was this year, that it matched what the system provided with Dominion software that we use. But that could be an issue. We certainly need to make sure that everybody trusts the election software that we use.
You know,
And that may be something that's most appropriate somewhere else,
no.
but it certainly comes to mind when you, as you ask the question.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and spill the beans then. I spoke to some representatives from Dominion, who's our voting system provider, and have reached out and asked if they'd be willing to come in and make a presentation about their system to address head-on some of the questions that have been raised. You know, my goal in everything, and I think we all want a good, fair system. You know, we've got to be able to look at things, an array of things that are raised as questions. We have to recognize things that are true, discount things that are not true, so we can focus on things that are true and right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's questions that came out of the 2016 election, questions that came out of the 2018 election. I mean, when you read the lawsuit after the 2018 gubernatorial race, it's almost, I mean, the headlines are almost word for word to the challenges to the 2020 election. You know, this Dominion voting system, ineligible voters. It's fascinating. Different outcomes from a partisan perspective, but the headline issues were much the same. So we've reached out to Dominion. My goal would be to create if they're able to come, create simply a forum where they can go through, from a technology perspective, you know, the claim, what are the vectors of threat for being on the internet? What are this claim about the software? You know, we know these software systems are all analyzed by federal elections and validated, but to really tee that up and allow there to be a conversation focused on the technology itself, not focused on what the other committee is going to do that addresses our statute.
Right.
But the technology itself, I think it's fair to have that conversation and be able to address challenges head on, debunk things that can be debunked, and if there's some concerns, then we can draw those out as a committee. Okay? Yes, sir. Representative Clark.
The paper says Mike 8. I don't know.
Mike 8. Right there.
All right. So just a couple of things in the off season. I call it the off season between sessions. I had the opportunity as the chairman of Defense and Veterans Affairs to go to. Had a meeting with GTRI, Georgia Tech Research Institute, and they were talking about some pretty high tech stuff that they're introducing into the agricultural. But it's got some bleed over into my area, being at Robins Air Force Base. I got a huge presence down there. So into some military stuff. I think it'd be interesting to talk to them to show what they're doing to innovate in the agricultural community, since that's our state's #1 industry, and how we can help them continue to support that industry in our state. And just some other things, and I don't know what we can do in this realm. It's probably more of a federal thing, but when you're looking at the big tech issues going on now with censorship issues, but also recently online trading platforms being able to be shut down and preventing certain stocks from being traded that benefits Wall Street and hurts Main Street.
So online trading platforms, and then also this issue of speech and on technology platforms. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? I've got some flashing lights here. Number 6. Who's got number 6? Representative Davis.
I'm very much interested in when it comes to security. I think we had a class before dealing with security and technology.
Mm-hmm.
In the hospital, when I go to get narcotics, I use my finger, and it can register my fingerprint just to get medication.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember my nephew bringing it to my attention that he was worried about being charged because of copyright infringement with the kids doing electronics online and playing online, that if you violate copyright online with all the kids playing the different games, you could be charged with a crime. So looking into issues like that, from security to children playing Nintendo games online.
Okay.
in a way that violates copyright laws.
Okay. Yeah, we did, didn't address gaming, but we did address, in fact, in this room, I think it was 2 years ago, we addressed the issue of intellectual property around engineering and architectural designs. There was the state was requiring that certain IP that is not normally given over be given over as part of handing off architectural designs. So that was and I think that's moving towards resolution. I think the attention was helpful, but I'll talk to you more offline about the specifics you're talking about here. Okay, Representative Perkle, do you have a mic there? Number two. Representative Perkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was an article 3 days ago that the big headline was the next big thing in transportation could be electric flying taxis. The onus of this committee, the past use has been to look at developing technologies and where they could be in the future, and it might be a transportation thing going forward, but you know, it'd be kind of cool. Maybe not this session, but maybe the next, maybe just to keep your eyes peeled. I'm not sure I would, well, I shouldn't say that. But if it does come to fruition, we need to have thought about the ramifications of it.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard, there's discussions about, you know, the electronic vehicle fleet versus the gas-powered vehicle fleet and how that transition's happening. You know, I've heard things that have said, you know, within 15 years that inversion could be quite significant. You know, and you know, one thing we're wrestling with as a state is, you know, is the infrastructure to support that. Perhaps you could have a conversion of cars that's not able to be supported by the infrastructure for a powering system, you know. So it's not our job to solve that from the state capitol, but I do think providing some emphasis to it and listening to out-of-state players, even some ways other states have addressed that from a policy perspective. Some states are perhaps further ahead than us, and others are maybe not as far along as we are. But what other states are doing to address those. So auto technology, Clay, is that kind of what you're talking about, emerging technology for transportation?
Yes, including the air transportation.
Okay. Got it.
Air taxis and other of you mentioned the link between fossil fuel way that we use to power our vehicles. It's going to be completely different going, as you say, 15 years, but you know, in 2.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. I've got number 6. Who's number 6? Okay. So, anything else, Representative Davis?
No, I didn't hear it.
Okay.
What, it keeps coming on?
It came back on. Who's got mic number 8? Is
This is 6.
okay.
This says 4 on it, sorry, yeah, okay, that's.
Okay, Representative Gilligan, please.
Yeah, I'm interested in data privacy.
Okay.
And the fact that there are 50 states doing 50 different ways of protecting data privacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be very nice if Georgia would update what we do to protect Georgians, because we are only protected to whatever our state law protects us right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting. I know California 3 years ago put in place what is equivalent to a GDPR, which is the data privacy standard in the EU. And you know, the interesting thing that came out, it was last year, it might have been the year before last, as we wrestled with this in this committee, was this issue of, you know, the people who are data service providers, and that's a broad term, whether it's the payment system or otherwise, right here in our own backyard, are supporting customers that are under a GDPR framework today, and customers are not under a GDPR framework, and so it's being managed by people in our midst today. So not that we want to run headlong towards that. There would be many that would argue that we should not, but well noted. Let's look
Right.
into that.
Thank
Vice
you.
Chairman Jones. Todd, you got, okay, I thought you raised your hand, okay. Okay, any further discussion? Anybody else? Representative Lopez, I'm not gonna put you on the spot. Anybody? Please. 8, Representative Lopez, just pull your chair over if you wouldn't mind. Pull your chair over so you can sit down, yep. Chair recognizes Representative Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing that I'm struggling with, and I don't know, if this will be within the realm of this committee as well, but with the virtual schooling now, we know that parents are struggling with that, and that obviously caught everyone by surprise. But looking into the future and that technology as we tackle future disruptions in schooling, what is the technology that we're going to put in place for our children in the future?
We're just gonna have to depend on my radio voice. Yeah. I'd like to just add codicil to that. I think it's a great recommendation, but let's make sure if we're going to do that, let's make sure active integrity is there. One of the things we have seen the last time is that struggle, but we've also seen, let's just say, people playing on the edges, and we'll just leave it at that.
Well, members of the committee, any other further discussion? Chair recognizes Representative Davis. Go hit your button again, if you would, please. Representative Davis.
Okay. Could we also put on there 5G? I have people right now laying the 5G on my street, and there's a lot of people who are concerned about the health effects of 5G and smart meters and things like that. So we could consider that too.
Okay. So the health implications of 5G technology. Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? Well, I'd like to thank everybody who was able to make it today. I know there's some folks that could not make it, and they sent, some of them sent me texts. Others have just they're tied up with other commitments today, other committees. So I'd like to thank everybody for your participation. Again, our plan is to try to structure these meetings 3:30 to 5 or 5:30 on Mondays, and Diana is our admin assistant, will be leading this effort. If you have questions, or you want to come. Honestly, with some of these things, if you've got some contacts in this area, bring them to Diana. You can certainly bring them to me on the floor, but if you bring them to Diana, things will actually get done. So, if you want to, my office is 402, literally right behind this committee room. But Diana's going to be involved in arranging our hearings over the course of the next several weeks. So if you've got some people, some experts that have real expertise that could really add value in these areas, bring those to her, and she'll kind of be a clearinghouse as we sort of schedule these things out. My goal is to try to have a meeting next Monday at 3:30 over in 606. That's dependent on us being able to have the speakers come in. I've got a really good, in fact, it's one of the subject matters we spoke about today that you guys raised. I'd love to have it next Monday, but it's subject to people's availability. So with that, if there's no further questions, we'll stand adjourned. I appreciate you being part of our committee today.